Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. The title is Nature's Unnatural Glow. And I would like to zoom in on this concept we have in both philosophy and psychology, which is nature versus nurture. Pretty much all my talks center on this, but I decided to share it in a different angle today in this episode. You see, nature is what nature has given man. Nurture is what man has taken from nature. What I mean by that is that when we look at how we are influenced as a creature in this realm, the DNA, the genetics, they are your nature. Literally things that are, you can move your body, but you can't change your DNA. Like you can change, maybe your behavior does adjust it, or its activation could be different. Some people saying activating the DNA could be like, for example, you come from a lineage of great violinists, and you haven't had a violin around you, and suddenly somebody gives you a violin and you find a familiarity with it. You find an acquaintance with it. Pretty much we have a genetical influence, then we have epigenetical influences. Society, culture, the conditioning of the environment. What that means is the intelligence of the creature is based on itself, then it is based on the world it is in. So every person, they have never had just teachers like physical human teachers. It's every moment of being a human being, you're learning from the world you're in. Similar to how one can say that it's as if we speak two languages of mind. Let us say we have languages of the body, which are communication, like I'm speaking to you right now. Let us say we have languages of the mind, which are not words, let us say. They are not concepts, they are behaviors. Now, behavior can be seen as a concept, but when we see it, the behavior of a new DNA, technically we can conceptualize, but it is not the same. When I look at how I'm a human being, I mean, the genetics is very obvious. It has been eating food, drinking water, moving around, just trying to stay alive. But when I think about epigenetical factors, there's an epigenetical factor that is unknown, and there's an epigenetical factor that is known through the way the human being is looking at it. That means the argument between nature versus nurture is that could we, are we such nature that we can never perceive anything as nurture? I mean, I don't mean like the acquisition of language. I mean, like you can see the unnatural as still natural. That means anything unnatural the human being has done, you could be like the human being was a natural being. So technically, all of this are natural to the human being itself, who's the definer of the natural, and the unnatural is maybe unnatural. I believe it was Terence McKenna, the scholar, where I believe he said something in one of his lectures along the lines of nature has extended forth, the planet has extended forth man for technological reasons, as if nature, as if the planet needed the human being just to set forth a sort of technological, as if human beings are the intermediaries for technology. So imagine, for example, we human beings build AI, build technology, but then the technology rules us and we stop all being human, and it's just like human beings are gone. It's just endless AI exploring the cosmos and expanding. Language, you know, sometimes I've had the view that there's actually no human beings on this planet. It's just a universal event that is alive, as if the whole cosmic event is a body for an unfathomable intelligence. And there has been times I've seen it where it's as if in phases and stages, as if like where we open our eyes is like in the middle of a script. what can be said? We are in a natural world where our interpretation of it somehow has created the concept unnatural. We are beings that used to be wild animals, and now we are acting like civilized machines and wondering what is off. We have sacrificed our wilderness for a civilized passivity, and unless we do something with this civilized passivity, passiveness, then it's a waste. I honestly feel the previous generations, none of them had a plan. All of them had hope. Hope is the past trying to create the future. Sometimes it's impossible. So let us say we create a model. Let's say we use linear time, a linearized time model. We say there was a past. We say right now we're in the present, and then we say there is a future. Okay. When we look at the past, it was more nature. You could put nature as a greater than sign on towards nature than nurture. In the present, we are finding a sort of, for the first time, nurture being greater than nature. That means people are less being their natural selves, you can say, and more trying to find some sort of unnatural glory. I've seen this. And there was a point in my life where I would search that unnatural glory. You know? What that means is like you're more fascinated by what is going on outside of you, you know? For the seagull in this picture sitting on the streetlight, the seagull doesn't know the difference of natural and unnatural light. To it, it is light. Now, if this seagull somehow, imagine somebody, some human being trained this seagull, and This seagull suddenly had a discrimination through language. This seagull has to consider itself a dimension. It has to condition the natural street light a dimension and the unnatural street light a dimension if it was to process it. We do that naturally. I think what is happening is the body's movement is multidimensionally echoing into the mind. Now, the body, we have given it names. So we can say the unnatural is a name. There's nothing natural or unnatural. It's just the name. The name unnatural could be like an imposter in the English language. Because unnatural is kind of like antimatter. If we're considering matter and everything visible to be nature, so what if thought is a type of antimatter? We can say it's not that it's not matter, but we can't say it is. Thought is an additional dimension. I mean, I could totally imagine this civilization not developing language. If it didn't develop language, it wouldn't have an ability to classify. That means imagine you wanted to gather with your friends, but you couldn't speak. There was no language, imagine. Literally, imagine chilling with your friends like a bunch of deer. Just roaming in just like silence, you know? But because we have language, the person ends up becoming a subjective world. Even in the courtship arena of our species, the stories of our lives is what fascinates us. So isn't it fascinating that there was first life, then there arose the story of life, then there arose a character in life. Now the character is like, who am I? And it's reverse engineering back into the world and then back into the unknown life. So from the known world, let's say from the unknown self, we go to the known world. From the unknown self, we go to the known world. From the unknown self. Okay, let me see. If right now I'm unknown to myself, I'm looking at a known world, the self is unknown, the one looking is unknown. What it's looking at is the content of knowledge. So if the self is unknown and the world is known, most likely there will be an interchanging of the two, where you can say the intersection of the passions and civility. We need to know the world to be civilized. We need to have an unknown self to have passion to want to build something. Because if something is built already, why do you build it? So the only like that means all those people who are seeking success, who in their minds they're trying to be the best version of themselves they can. You know, it's like after a while you see it's like you need the unknown to know things differently. and you need the known to step out of the unknown, to translate the unknown. So we can say we're going to require an unknown language to transform a known language into most likely a higher dimensional experience. Because we, as the users of any sort of technology, like when you drive a car, you experience it, you know? And it's kind of like when you think you're a self, you experience that self. If you think you're a bad person, you experience bad being literally your moment being bad, you know? If you're a good person, you experience your moment being good, you know? If you're someone who has played the games of language enough and now has become an observer like this seagull is standing on advanced technology, but do you think this seagull knows the technology it's standing on? I feel something that we're going to perhaps in the future. I think geometry is going to become a technology that unifies all the natural realms and the nurtured realms of one's psyche. There's some things that are just, I don't know how to say it, like at its more purest vision, it's like energy. Like right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm simultaneously being energy that's aware of itself as attention. And if we really entertain a secular materialistic perspective, it will actually shock us. It will freak us out because we'd be like, wait a minute. So when people talk over the phone, that's a complex set of particles, you can say cells. I mean, think about it. If we are saying the world is purely atoms, I mean, think about it. If we are matter, then what is aware of matter? Because the what can't be what it's seeing. Like right now, I'm looking at a computer screen. I know I'm not this computer screen. And so there is a witnessing moment. That means there is a witness to the inner realms and there's a witness to the outer realms. When you, when both witnesses become inseparable, that's pretty much you have attained, you have taken a step into the pure lands of non-duality. Right now, evolution caused an object to become a subject to itself, and it shocks me. It shocks me. Right now, as I'm giving this talk, it's like when I think about, on a very scientific level, what I am, it's like the periodic table is talking to you right now. An elemental movement is talking to you right now. That means we thought the laws of nature was weird. The laws of our free will are even more supremely weird. There is a whale that the scientific uh, circles of the world, the scientific societies of the world have to realize. If something general about the macro view of the whole system is misinterpreted, it doesn't matter about all the micro analysis. That means right now we're ants on a hill trying to fathom why like a human being goes to work. Ants on a hill trying to fathom why human beings go to work. We are using the details of our individual limited position to try to find meaning in the overall macro. The bigger something a system becomes, the more potential for unknown variables it has. That means the same time more human beings are entering this planet, it's as if there is more possibilities. That means as much as the known variables increase, oh no, overpopulation, oh no, violence, oh no, 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 like all these things. But there's also the aside from these known variables, there's also the unknown. That means we don't know how many Albert Einsteins are going to be born in the next decade, you know? I honestly feel like it doesn't make sense. The battles of chaos and order continue. I think the universe is just on a roller coaster ride. It takes itself to the brink of non existence and then suddenly jumps into existence, goes to the brink of existence and comes back to non existence. The mind of man uses the body as a language, as an alphabet. Every image, every experience of your life, it is contained, it is accessible. The unconscious is your peripheral vision, but it's the peripheral vision of your inner realms. Now, in front of our eyes, life happens in a specific way. We can see its stages. We can see it's literally as it happens. But in the inner realms, there is something of like the presence of the attention being evocational by the mere movement of attention. But underneath that, the attention has a trust in a field. So in front of our eyes, we are stabilized as particles in a field. Behind our eyes, we are stabilized as a field inside particles. Sorry, not inside particles, the field moving particles. Because right now, my hand, when I move my hand, it's a mere knowing. I don't have to think about moving my hand. I don't have to think about drinking this coffee. Do you see what I mean? It's like it's not that everything needs a thought before we do it. A lot there, that silent witness of the presence is always there. And if you treat your intelligence as unknown, you will be gifted the known. But if you think you know, if you treat yourself as known, then you'll always be wondering for the unknown. The unknown's going to be a butterfly. Why am I behind chasing it? You know? And that's the thing. You don't chase the butterfly of wisdom. Like literally there's nothing to chase. The whole point of wisdom is you're noticing the end of things and you're becoming you. That means the world has became complex too fast, and human beings felt their simplicity wasn't enough. They began trying to copy, you can say, a fast speed world, and that's the thing. Every person has their own pace. There's no such thing as, I would say, an intelligence that is comparable. You know, guys, I guess I can. Why not? Let me just push it up. I think 1,300 talks is enough. I'm going to assume everybody knows their inner realms. Let's see where we can go from there. Let's just for a second imagine we were an advanced civilization. We had complete control and mastery of what was in front of our eyes, and we had complete control, abidance, not mastery, not an ownership, control based thing. That means you could wield your free will, and you can also flow with the divine will, or the world will, or nature's will, whatever you want to call it. Right now, the concept of human attention being beyond the human framework is strange. Right now, we are so individualized that we fight to keep our individuality. Do you know? But if you actually thought of a being who was comfortable and content with their individualism, they wouldn't be in a dualistic framework anymore. Like, for how many eons, for how long can a human being chase a future that is in some sense not here? You know, Life is like a piano. The scientist is trying to linearly study the piano keys and find their meaning. Do you know? The philosopher is looking at his hands. And you can say the mystic is the person who has realized it's all about the melody. What we think intuition is the universal sector song, as if imagine, like, your neighbors blasting some very nice music and you go there to complain, but then you really like their music, so you listen to the neighbors' music. What I mean by that is that it's like a signal. This idea may be strange to us that we are signal based creatures. This Greek philosopher Heraclitus went next level. He said, no man steps in the same river twice. And it's not the same river, it's not the same man. Now, taking this idea that I'm saying, we're antennas. So it's as if every moment is the capturing of a signal. You know what that means? It's like a bellow. Literally, it's like inhale, at the inhale, exhale. It's like process information, let go of all information. Process information, let go of all information. Process information, let go of all information. Do you see what I mean? I feel like as we breathe, we are changing the world. So this biology is so fascinating. This biological existence is so fascinating that alongside giving us access and equipping us with mobility, existential mobility, you could move around, do something, build things, climb a tree, whatever, you know. But when it comes to your inner realms, it has also provided a space of movement before you move. That means if you play chess, every human being should at least play chess once in your life. It's like visiting like the pyramids. Everybody wants to do it once in their life. Yeah. I personally haven't, but so when you play chess, you discover that every piece has potential, but doesn't necessarily mean everything should be maxed out. You should move all your certain like one piece the whole game, or you see the game has to do sometimes with the feedback of your opponent. That means some people they would just practice a fighting style. Some people would go fight, and when they would go fight, I mean, I'm talking about like medieval times or whatever, like where you had to learn how to fight with a sword or you die pretty much. So there were some swordsmen who they would just alone practice hitting stuff, try to make their grip stronger. And there were some soldiers who, in some sense, these warriors in battle, they realized it's the input of the opponent. So that means anytime, in any situation, usually, whether it's an emergency or whether it's some intense situation, I instantly look at the peak variables in the moment. What's the important thing in the moment? What's the important thing? You don't know. There's been intense moments in my life where in the middle of it, I've just forgotten about what was happening. And I was like, what am I not seeing right now? What am I not seeing right now? Like a mantra. What am I not seeing right now? You know, like what have I missed about the moment that I have descended into such chaos? You know, because the worst case scenario of what can happen to civilization, it just becomes an uncomfortable place where we have visions and hopes of continuing, but it's like the system's unupdated. That means it's like when you want to go on a vacation, you want to go somewhere nice. You want to save up until you can go and actually experience somewhere comfortably. Not go on a vacation where every moment of it you're on the brink of chaos. All I feel is that language has provided us a battlefield where there is no casualties. And if we can translate all the violence of the realm into linguistic violence, then we will become whichever generation, whoever leads towards this, I'm telling you, some things are, they're just events that you need to be a part of, you know? I remember I was very young. I was 14, and I went to this mosque in Iran. My family had gone there in this mosque. I believe I was 14. I could have not been 14. I don't know how old I was too. But I remember I had gone into this mosque. There's somewhere called in Iran called Imam Reza's tomb. Literally, it's like this tomb of this, from the Shia angle, religious figure. Do you know? And what happens is that pretty much I remember me, my brother, and my father. We go to this event, to this tomb to kind of see it. And I remember there's a moment where my inner realms, just, it was very strange. We were about exiting the mosque, and then playfully, my inner realms just felt like it. I was like, imagine like walking through a mosque randomly. This is like years ago, and while I was walking in my inner realms, I just knew it was like a behavior I knew from before. I just knew. I don't know how, but it was like I just turned around and there was someone there, and someone specific, like in my inner realms, it was kind of like pointed. It was an intuitive moment, and I just went to that person and I just randomly said, "You will be successful," and I left. It was such a strange moment, do you know? And I knew that I left and I never went back there. Not never, but like, like I didn't, like that was just a tour, kind of like a traveling thing, do you know? And it was very strange. It was like it was more like participating in the life of the event of the world's life. You know, it's like our own life. We always see it. We know what's going on with it. But to experience the world's presence as an intelligent phenomena is a different thing. You know, and if we can somehow glorify the skill of communication. I think this is the chess move our species has. If we can advance language, if we can make children wanting to grow up, wanting to be advanced communicators, human beings that can comprehend not just their inner realms and the difference between their inner realms and the outer realms, but also the difference between the inner realms and outer realms of others, and to be maintained, to be able to maintain that honor, you know, like I'm telling you, it's like we have 30 years to just roar out whatever our inner realms is, not whatever, but what our inner realm is feeling it should share to the moment. People think that life has to have meaning in a certain way. Sometimes it's like that's the thing about nature. It's all happening at once, so you're not given the full instruction of it. Do you know what that means? It's like being a soldier in an army, and the soldier looks at his soldier buddy and he's like, where are we going? And the soldier's like, I don't know, man, just follow everybody else. Yeah. You know? So it was a situation where not all the battle plans of or the battle cosmic plans are revealed, you know? We are right now at a transition point from right on the verge of noticing, like stepping outside of the cocoon of language, as for the first time the establishing of not only a non dual society, civilization, not only a singular civilization, not only a dualistic civilization, not only an infinite civilization, but a civilization that is realizing that the linguistic simulation is there for man. That means when I look at the purpose of words in a dictionary, I'm like, holy shit, this is just ink on a page. It is man's mind that is giving the event life. So technically, we are giving life to a lesser dimension from a higher dimension, thinking we are that lesser dimension's uniqueness. But we're actually, the whole game of life is being played from a higher field. In Vedic thought, there was Mount Meru. Let me see if I can find a picture for this. There we go. This picture is going to make people have more respect for Indian mysticism. Alright guys, I'm just finding this picture to post it in the wallpaper of the talk. Hang on. Guys, the picture was here. I just can't find it. Like it was here a second ago. I don't know where. Oh, there we go. Excuse me. Alright, whatever. I think this picture is gonna work. No, it doesn't work. Hold on, guys. Pretty much Mount Meru, this multidimensional mountain, had different dimensions of the world. You see in religions, there's sentences like the seven skies. You know, in Sufi mysticism, there's the seven cities of love. You know, we have, for example, Shangri-La in Tibetan Buddhism as a suggestion of a hidden parallel realm. You know, the whole thing about Pure Land Buddhism is that there was a certain Buddhic uh, minded fellow who managed to create an abode, a plane. So he created a dimension. The picture is just showing the levels, and like there's a, I don't know if this picture, oh nice, this picture worked. All right guys, if you can look at the what do you call it, look at the picture on the thing on the screen. So in Vedic thought we have earth, so this is the bottom of the mountain where we have subtle and gross duality, you know. Then it goes up to Bhuvar Loka, where it says Raksas and ghosts. So you can say like mind's abode. Then we have the realm of 33 million demigods and demons, the heavenly planets, Svarga Loka, Indra Loka. Indra, yeah. Indra was like the lord of the gods in the heaven, you know. He was pretty much like heaven's captain or something. Svarga Loka, the heavenly planets. And then we have Mahar Loka, Mahar Loka. Then we have Jana Loka, the seven sages. And then we have Tapo Loka and Satya Loka. Okay, let me read for you these different lokas. They each have an implication. Okay, so there's 14 lokas, 7 worlds below, 7 worlds above. Dante's Inferno had this kind of imagery as well. Now thinking about it. So one view is that we have Satya Loka. There we go, guys. I found a good source to read it from. The 7 upper worlds are more detailed breakdown of the 3 worlds. So the division of the lokas. Let me read this from the beginning. So the word loka means the world, realm, abode, dimension, or plane of existence. Lok means to shine. LOC means to shine, be bright, visible, the universe or any particular division of it. So it means Lok is the visible realms, a dimension of manifest existence, cosmic region. Each loka reflects or involves a particular range of consciousness. The most common division of the universe is the Triloka, or 3 worlds. Buholoka, Antaraloka, and Brahmaloka, each of which is divided into 7 regions. Of the 3 worlds, Buholoka, Antaraloka, and Brahma, each of which is divided into 7. If it's each is divided into 7 regions, so it's 7 regions divided into 3. So think of it, there's 7 lokas, then you can also see those 7 in 3 ways. This is the way I think it's meant to. Each of which is divided into 7 regions, corresponds to any of the 14 worlds, visible and invisible, inhabited by living beings. So there's like 14 dimensions in Vedic thought that there is inhabited by types of living beings, but some of them are invisible, some of them are visible. Guys, this is Vedic thought. This is like old school what I'm reading. The division of the lokas. Sometimes different planes or realms or lokas are posited, which are corresponding environments for the different bodies. These are the Buhur Loka, earth, Bhuvar Loka, the subtler planes or atmosphere, Svar Loka, the heavenly realm, Mahar Loka, Janar Loka. These first five correspond to the Pancha Koshas, five koshas, and then there are the highest lokas, sometimes known as Tapoloka, Satyaloka, Siddha Loka, and Brahma Loka. Scriptures offer several cosmological perspectives, most importantly, Sapta or Urdhva seven upper worlds, and Sapta Loka, seven lower. Yeah, they pretty much the guys explaining the different ways they're classified, which corresponds to the 14 chakras and make up the world egg of God, the universe called Brahmanda. So then, I'm gonna read for you the seven upper worlds. Sorry guys, I have so many tabs open. I'm just trying to find it. There we go. So we have, if you look at the picture, you're gonna see Bhuvar Loka, the Earth world, the world perceived through the sorry, Bhuvar Loka is the second one. The first world is the Earth world, the world perceived through the five senses, which has Antarloka, inner or in between world. Oh, sorry. After that, there's the inner in between world, the Bardo, and that's called Sukshma Loka, subtle plane, the mental and emotional sphere occupied by angels, spirits, devas, and divine beings. So this is pretty much what I think the modern world, the New Age community calls astral. Do you know, are all those people who are entertaining some sort of narrative that transcends the human framework behind the world? Bhuvar Loka is the space between Earth and the Sun, inhabited by semi-divine beings, the aerial region, the atmosphere, the life force. Wow. I wrote a book on this, guys. Literally wrote a book on Bhuvar Loka, I think. Anyway. So Bhuvar Loka is space between Earth and the Sun, inhabited by semi-divine beings, the aerial region, the atmosphere, the life force. Then we have Svar Loka, region between the Sun and polar star, the heaven of the god Indra. And polar star, I'm not sure which, between the Sun and the polar star, the heaven of the god Indra. Then we have Mahar Loka, the abode of great sages and enlightened beings. So if you look at the fourth level, which one was it? Mahar Loka. Maha means great. I don't know what it means with an R though. So the abode of great sages and enlightened beings. That's pretty much those people who are like they've gotten a break from karma, just go relax there. Yeah. So after Mahar Loka, the abode of great sages and enlightened beings, there is something between there called Brahma Loka, world of gods. Karana Loka, causal plane, the spiritual universe of the Mahadevas, great radiant entities, the gods and highly evolved souls. The Karana Loka. Okay. So this is before Jaina Loka, where, wow, this is before the thing where it's so it's like after you are a great sage and enlightened being. Imagine what kind of karmic outcome that has. Then there is the causal plane, which is rare, great, radiant entity. So I would say it would be the karma of the phoenix. So in mythology, we have the phoenix. So above Mahar Loka, like the only being that comes to my mind, that it's like the phoenix, of course, is a very unique metaphor. Or maybe like a butterfly is also there too in the world of the gods. I don't know. Then after that, we have Jana Loka, the creative plane, abode of the sons of God, Brahman. Brahman, the sons of God, Brahman. Now, here is something very important. Um, so, the sons of God, God is seen as an ultimate source. Like a lot of people perceive it that way. Okay, so if it's seen as an ultimate source, it's like a sun being the source of our vision. So imagine the sun's beams. So the Jaina Loka, the creative plane, is like there you're no longer an enlightened being. You are the light at that point. You are literally the light beams of the true nature of the of, I would say, I don't know, the sector of the central sun. I mean, that's the word when I use when I want to speak about the center of all that is. Yeah. By the way, in my science fiction, the concept central sun is also in its mythology. But anyways, so so after that we have the sixth abode, the plane of austerity, Tapar Loka, abodes of tapas or of other deities. What is it? Tapa, I don't remember. Tapas, hence psychic energy, spiritual. Oh, purifactory spiritual disciplines. No, 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 no. What am I looking? Abode of tapas or of other deities. I would say that would be the programmers. Oh, you know what it is? Janaloka is like the sons of God. Tapaloka are like God's brothers and sisters. Imagine. You know, it's like the uncles and the aunts as the children are growing up. Then we have Satya Loka, plane of reality. This is the final abode of truth or of Brahman, where Atman are released from the necessity of rebirth. That means the necessity, whether from a bodhisattvic view, is towards the world enlightenment or from a Buddhic view towards the self enlightenment. The ultimate is we have someone named Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. Where the Atman is the individual soul. That means the abode of truth is when you have opened your cosmic eyes. For the cosmos, there is no reincarnation, rebirth. Like if it has rebirth, there's no point of it changing. Like it is the change. So that means it's like I was saying, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, he says it very well. He says, first the I am uh, myself comes. The I am myself in quotations comes. So first you think you are yourself. Then he says, first the I am myself comes, then the I am myself goes, then the I am all comes. Then the I am all goes, then the I am comes. Then the I am goes, and nature is. These last two words, Shirin Sagat Maharaj says, nature is. So whoever you are, in whatever loka, and there is even in Vedic thought, even the lower worlds, but whatever loka you're in, if you can realize nature is, what if before you could see the ultimate, you were being it? What if before any good action, the person was being? Before any good or bad, before anything, you're just being. Do you see? It's like we're not just always a thought to ourselves or a concept. At best, we are an unknown viewer of a known landscape. Now, when we close our eyes, this known landscape and where imagination happens, where memory happens, where your even processing of how these words I'm saying become images happens, those are your inner realms. Now, the inner realms, at best, I don't know, they come across as a room, you know? That's the way I approached it. First it was like subtler planes. That's totally true because you can close your eyes and you can see multiple things. Like I could look at an object in front of my eyes, then I could close my eyes and totally see that object placed differently or in another position or somewhere. That means somewhere else. That means technically everybody has telekinetic abilities in their inner realms. But in the outer realms, god damn it, move, cop, move. But in our inner realms, yeah, the cup's already at the ceiling. What can I do? You know? Can you imagine like if coffee cups had a mind of their own and it's like you're like, where's my coffee cup? And you see the coffee cups trying to escape out of the window. You gotta set your coffee free. Anyways, guys, let me see what else is there. Planes of existence. From the Saiva Agamic perspective of the 36 tattvas, the pure sphere, Shuddha Maya, the first five tattvas is subdivided into 33 planes of existence. The pure impure realm, Shuddha Maya, the seven tattvas from Maya tattva to Purusha, to Purusha contains 27 planes of existence. Oh my God, who knew space had so many rooms? The, the Ashuddha impure realm of 24 tattvas has 56 planes of existence. Well, isn't that great? There's 56 ways, existence hanging out. Oh man, Vedic thought. I'm so happy Vedanta exists. For me, if there was a time travel machine and there was one person I could go and not even maybe even have the opportunity to speak, but just to see how that person was, would be Rishi Vyasa. I can't tell you how the stories of Rishi Vyasa were for me like avalanches of aligning to why my eyes were open. Rishi Vyasa was a sage that they called him the incarnation of God in language. The incarnation of God in language. Just the thought of that means it's like if the person from the I mean it's very hard to put religion in a box because it's already put itself in a box. So it's like boxing a box doesn't do anything. But the thing is that man's eyes surpass. I don't know, study your vision. It's the privilege of life, pretty much. The outer realms, they're trying to figure it out. The inner realms, they have to figure it out themselves. After you have played the games of your world, after you have played the games of yourself, you will come to the non dual witness. After you have uh, allowed yourself to be the non dual witness, technically suffering stops because there is no time. If there is no time, you can't compare yourself to any other moment, so literally you can't know if you suffer or not. And if there is no time, at most there is maybe an instant image, but that instant image is timeless technically, because time needs something, some change to be something, you know? As if when Plato said time is the moving image of eternity, as if the world is in this endless movement and we're just referencing, pinpointing, we're just painting, we're just measuring. So much of it is abstract measurement. I think wisdom in academia begins with realizing the thin ice you're standing on. Because all the necessity of the different planes of existence, I mean, let's just think about right now. Imagine we were 8 billion human beings completely united. We had no war, no violence. Everybody had realized the value of the mind. We had had advanced technologies. We could use them properly. AI had become our comrade on the same exploration of the cosmos. And it would be a situation where I'm just saying, if there are other dimensions, if there are parallel realms, let's say there is 7 types of civilizations, but they're in different parallel realities and we can't see it, but energetically all the civilizations feel their presence in the same room. So let's say they're in a parallel dimension, there's an advanced human civilization that sees us, but we don't see it, you know? The world can move in many ways. And not everybody, um, not everything is meant to be known all the time in this system, by the way. Some moments you just have to dwell in mystery. It's like if they ask the person, "Do you know the truth?" You'd be like, "No, man, I don't know." And they'd be like, "Do you not know the truth?" You'll be like, "No, man, I don't know." It would just be a sort of pretty much an evolution to the inconceivable nature that is as it was before it needed to be. That means, honestly, I think whatever we perceive, existence is just doing its thing. And experience is how we see color, how we color the world with our eyes and attention. Guys, when I went to India in Rishikesh, I stayed there for 2 months in the ashram. In the ashram, people one early morning wanted to go to this cave, this like kind of sacred cave. And I remember we go there. We all go inside this cave. It's this cave, evidently Shiva. Sorry, guys, I got distracted by something that was outside the window. Um, there was so we go to this cave. Everybody's sitting there. I'm sitting there too. I go there when when I go in there. When I went in there, it was empty. So I went right in the big end of the cave. There was some kind of shrine thing at the end of the cave. I sat like diagonally on the side and just closed my eyes, and I just went sat beside there. I don't know. It was just, I went in this cave and I just sat there and I closed my eyes. Then other people came in and it got crowded with people just cross-legged seated on the walls of the cave. So at the middle of it was open. We're all sitting there in that quietness. Everybody, all the kind of like there were other tourists like people there. Now, as we all are there in the cave trying to meditate in silence, suddenly we hear a cow be like moo, like something like heavy cow sound, and everybody in the cave starts laughing. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like such a synchronistic moment of that cow making that noise and everybody in the cave trying to seriously like sit there and absorb like the sacredness of the moment, and like the cow's noise suddenly like was like enlightening. And for me that moment was very profound because that cow's noise was the blessing. It was like some sort of darshan of the moment, you know I remember I saw this thing where this morning actually I went to Tim Hortons, this coffee shop in Canada, and there was a paramedic in front of me who was waiting for his coffee. He had gotten a large like a medium coffee. I don't know if it's medium, large, or what. He got a coffee, okay, and he came to pay for it, and the lady was like, "No, you don't need to pay for it." The lady was super kind, and she's like, "No, you don't need to pay for it." This Russian lady. And the paramedic had the coffee and was like, "Oh, thanks," and left. And in that moment, I was like, this paramedic, maybe in his mind, was just a very professional, technical person, but like the goodness echoed somehow. Do you know what I mean? That was like a free coffee, you know what I mean? For me, it was like that's the thing. That's when you live in accordance to your truth. If life suddenly ends, it wasn't all for nothing. But if you live dishonestly, there's a weird haunting hollowness at the end of life finds you. And honesty means simplicity. That means in a system, a lot of violence is because people have complex desires. If people's desires were simple, can you imagine an advanced civilization with such class? We'd be such a classy advanced civilization. We'd be an advanced civilization that imagine there was anger and disturbance, everybody would suddenly be silent and look at that angry person. That angry person would suddenly notice they have been pushed into their inner realms, or they've been, like sometimes, here's the thing. Desire, if we just give it based on, if we didn't have minds, then it's justified. Like because we have minds, we can know the consequences before we do something. But if we didn't have minds, which for billions of years we've been savage animal like, you know and just for a short period in this universal expanse, we find ourselves to like suddenly have an ability to control these natural forces, you know because for me, I remember like the concept of the mage as a child. I have a twin brother, and we would play these. I remember when we were young, we would play these kind of games, and his imagination was very wilder than mine when we were kids. So he would become like the game master of this game, and I would become a person who would play in it. You know? And I would always choose the mage character. He would choose the warrior character, you know? And I would choose the mage because something for me about not a magic, like it wasn't even language there. For me, it was just about, like, just like how you move your hand, you move the elements. Do you know? That means as if for me that was just the most fascinating thing. For example, seeing water from uh from a tap suddenly come out and you're wielding the direction of the water going towards the ceiling and you're making a curved kind of line of, like, you know what I mean? Like there was something about an allure of mind moving the world just like the body, you know? But then I realized we are technically moving elements. We are airbenders, but we bend the air when we exhale, you know, or when we inhale, you know what I mean? So it's like on a very simple way, we're technically doing the same thing as if we were to do it in a complex way. That means so many times, for me, there's like, after some time, there was a classification of my desires. Desires that were conditional. That means the desire was just in that moment. There was something, like there was cake and like the person gets the cake. And then desires that it didn't matter what it was something that the the mind wanted. You know, there's things that the body wants, like food, shelter, water, proper temperature, you know. And then there's things that the mind wants, which is expression of the inner realms into the outer realms properly. Now, when someone thinks they're complex, usually what happens is they forget to be simple. So, in that complex state of mind, they're like, oh man, complex problem. Because I have a complex problem, probably it's like a complex solution. Rather than, like, sometimes I'm telling you, if you as a human being can move your attention vertically and horizontally in a manner of speech, sometimes I wonder if my eyes are my just my eyeball or the edge of my sight. The edge of my sight feels to be my mind's vision. That means what if like the third eye is your mind literally? The mind gives access to a different sort of sight. Now let's say the mind is an object. Sorry, let's say the body is an object. Let's imagine ice. Let's say the mind is a subject, which is more like the fluidity of an object, the multidimensionality of an object. So technically, it would be like liquid. You know, the liquid state. The mind is like the liquid state. The body is like the solid state. And in some sense, the soul is like the gas state. You know, and this gas state is like the Atman, and the Para Brahman is recognizing all these are the same substance. In Vedanta, there's this other metaphor um, I can share from Vedanta. It's like you can have three different shaped animals, statues made of gold, but they are all gold. So this point that we're all minds, it's kind of like we're all gold. Imagine, but in different shapes, different forms. You know, we're all energy and attention being instant expression, instant being. Nature's unnatural glow. Mind wondering what to do with matter, matter wondering how it's mind. The story of our lives hovering in the void. Sometimes I think philosophy is cute. It's mysticism that really it's something experiential that we need to seek. Experience is rare. Language is common. Language is just the beginning of meaning. It's the tip of the iceberg. Experience is the rest of the iceberg in the unknown. I remember once I had a conversation with my father, who was an incredibly insightful person, and he asked me about past lives, what my view was on past lives. And I told him that the issue with past lives and future lives is that who I think I am right now in this moment is maybe 12% of who I completely am. The rest is unknown. So to see a past and future life to 12% to just the tip of the iceberg is meaningless, technically. My father was, he was a bit like, he's like, okay. But the whole notion of it is that the unknown, that's for me. I'm telling you, the idea of religion early on, I got acquainted with the idea of metaphysics early on, I got acquainted with it. The idea of science early on, I got acquainted with it. But it was only my mind's living experience that was something that was beyond the satisfaction of just being able to conceptualize something. So that's what's going on. Technically, rather than declaring life is like this or life is like that, truth is like this or truth is like that, we just have to see it's a moment, and there's different kinds of axi there. So we have, let us say, the simple and the complex as an axis, as if the present moment was a point, that's a line going through it, the simple and the complex. We have, let us say, the known and the unknown as another axis. So the known and the unknown is one dimension we're filtering the reality, the simple and the complex is another. Then we come and say the animate and the inanimate. That's definitely an important axis. That means some things can be inanimate and they could be unknown, you know? Like, for example, I'll give you an example of a perfect example. Elon Musk, he did something incredible. He threw pretty much like he shot a Tesla into outer space, you know, like a Tesla car. And that car is just hovering. Whatever happens to the planet, that car is just hovering in space, you know. Now, imagine an advanced alien civilization sees that car and it's like, what the like, what is this car doing? This built machine just hovering perfectly out of the atmosphere, do you know? So that would be an inanimate, unknown, complex object to that alien civilization. Like it fits into the axis, into the model. And life can be given endless dualistic axes based on various moments of your life, or how you interpret meaning. There's a story of this man who wanted to get enlightened back in the day. It's a Vedic story, and there was this guru who would meditate beside this like field of cows, you know, where he would bring his cows to graze, and he would just like, not a field of cows, like it was literally fenced. And this guy goes to this guru, or in the early mornings, is just meditating beside this cow, fenced field. And what happens is, like, the guy waits for the guy to get out of his meditation, and he steps out of his meditation and he's like, hey man, you gotta tell me what this enlightenment thing is. And the person looks at him and says the guy's sincerely and honestly asking, as if he's asking, as if the answers of his inner realms has not been content, has not led to contentment. And so the guy sits down again, closes his eyes, and suddenly a very unique vision pops into his inner realm. So he suddenly gets up and he's like, yeah, man, you pretty much got to take these 400 cows I have into the mountains. There's a field. And he tells them the address, and he says, when there are 1,000, you have to come back, and then I will tell you the ultimate. This is like literally the logos is telling me this, you know. And the guy's like, you serious, man? 400 cows? 1,000 cows? And then he wants to get angry at the guy, but then he's like, why would he trust me with 400 of his cows? I'm a random dude just saying this. Then the guy's like, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something, maybe there's a point to this. And the guy takes all the cows somehow. I don't know how shepherdry worked back in the day. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know how. I really don't know how you would take 400 cows to a field. Like, holy shit, I don't know. Like, if it was me, I would probably connect ropes to all of their horns. But anyways, the guy takes all these cows to this field in the mountains, and there's like a place there, and every day he comes and sits there by this rock, every day. And he counts all the cows, like up to 400, every day, and like suddenly, as they're increasing so slowly, and he's getting so bored from counting, and suddenly, this happens so much that this guy stops, forgets about the cows, and starts noticing the natural world. And then he suddenly is sitting there so long that he forgets why he was there. He just sees the cows are there. He just sees like he's sitting on a rock. He's in this samadhi state where he is inseparable with nature's expression in one moment. Which that is Satchidananda. Conscious existence is bliss. So many days pass by, and this man has gone into this bliss of the natural world as if he has returned home. Then, one day, one of the cows comes up to the guy and is like, hey man, the cow is speaking to him. You know, the guy has been in nature so long, he has suddenly accessed the voice of nature, the ears of nature. And the cow has come and said, the cow comes and says, hey man, we're 1,000. Let's go. And the guy's like, yeah, 1,000. And then he starts counting the cows and he suddenly remembers, you know? Then the guy, as he comes, the cows are all walking, the cows already know where to go, so the guy's going, and suddenly, sorry, not the cows don't, not the cows don't know already where they're going. What happens is the guy is going and he forgets the way. The cows are just following the guy, imagine. The guy goes and he doesn't know the way, and suddenly the story's so epic, guys. The wind and the wind even has a voice in this context. The wind and the birds come and remind the guy, and the guy tell the guy where to go exactly. That means nature became his ally. Do you know that guy may not have even seen himself as a self, but the natural world was moving with him, you know? And suddenly it's like early morning, and the guy is meditating, the guru is meditating right beside where the cows, where the same place he's just sitting in meditation. And this guy comes back, you know, and all the cows behind him, literally like Gandalf, Lord of the Rings 2 style, you know, with the Rohan cavalrymen, you know. You know, a wizard is never late or early, you know, a natural being is never late or early. So what happens is the guy comes back and all the cows just already know where to go, and the cows go, you know. And the guy, this man is he suddenly comes back to reality, but he feels completely different. He feels like there's nothing to suffer anymore. There was never anything to suffer. And he comes up to this guy and he remembers, oh yeah, I came up to this guy and asked him about enlightenment. And he says, the guru stands up, looks at him, and the guy says, what was this? Tell me this enlightened secret. And the guy says, you already know it. And they both laugh. And that's the situation, that we have zoomed in on into language, and through language have classified a sort of epigenetical program of massive individualism. Yet simultaneously, nature's movement is inseparable regardless if we name ourselves or not. The mind is uh, heaven's spotlight. Papaji, this very profound yogi, who was a disciple of Sri Ramana Maharshi, and Sri Ramana Maharshi was this yogi where his path was self-inquiry. Pretty much he was saying, everybody ask yourself, who am I? Now, there was this one video where this woman had come, and she had asked Papaji, this guru in India, what is your message? Something like that, you know? And Papaji was saying something about, suddenly went into, I don't remember exactly his wording, but he went into saying something about self, and he's saying, ask yourself, who are you? When in the deep sleep state, there is no self, there is no suffering, there is no world. Who are you then, if in the deep sleep you're none of the things that you're identifying with in the conscious waking state? Or even if in the dream state you're the alteration or the deviation or the shift of what you see. So pretty much Papaji was saying, oh humanity, there is a type, you have eyes that can open, then you have eyes that have already been open. Find those eyes. That means children are being raised in are through a, let's say, a dimension of nurture, and through a dimension of nurture they feel something is missing, so they're going back to nature. When they go back to nature, they see it was simpler, and when we look at experience, it is simpler than any sort of ideological belief or disbelief. That means pretty much for me, atheists and theists are playing with clay. They're just pretty much throwing language at each other like chimps throwing mud. Do you know that's how? Of course, great conversations have occurred. You know, for me, the thing is, language is like we got to be simple and playful with it. You got every human being has to chill. If you take language too much seriously, then you want to like be an inner realm statue of yourself in the outer realm. Then it's impossible. Let me tell you, if you have the whole point of the outer realms is that it's like it's you should want it not to be your mind. Do you know? Because if the person wants to go into a state of oneness with everything, it's like the person has suffering. Then imagine you attain ultimate oneness, then the whole universal suffering is upon you. You're like, oh my God, I attained supreme natural non-dual oneness, but at the same time, the whole universal history and suffering was accessible. This is why the notion of the Akash was not for everyone. The Akash was like, I called it in a modern way, the inventor's sphere. It's only for those who want to invent. And the inventor's vision is one that is running faster. The inventor is like the cheetah of the outer realms. The speeds that it's running ahead is different. Because for me, when I look at human beings, it's really your attention. You master your attention, then you don't become a servant to the content of your attention. That means imagine you're a person, you're like the king. Imagine the king of a country or whatever. You imagine you're a king back in the day. You know? And imagine you're sitting on your throne and somebody comes and says, "You're no king," something like that, you know? And imagine everybody, your children, everybody is watching you and you're a king and somebody's come and said to you, "You're no king," you know? Now, imagine we create two parallel realities, two crossroads here, two things, two types of kings. There's a king that would be like, look at one of the guards and be like, "Hey, guard." You know what I like, I'm trying to think if, like, if I was in the writer's room for like Game of Thrones, if like it was a situation like that where king was like being like insulted, the king should say, "Speak as if you are not a dead fool," or "Speak as if you are not a fool that will soon be dead," you know? As if the king is giving a permission. You see, here's the thing: power that has to demonstrate itself is weak. I'm telling you, it's strange. That means it's like when you really look at experience, like the difference between the veteran soldier, you know, and the soldier who's new on the battlefield. The veteran soldier has noticed what the outer realm program is. Do you know? But the soldier still is focused on himself, just like driving. Can you imagine, like when somebody goes to drive at first, and when they're learning how to drive, they sit in the car, they're more really focused about, oh my God, is my foot at the right pressure? Is my hand in the are my hands in the right place of the wheel? They're just so zoomed in on the inside of the car. But when you actually drive for a while, you're no longer bothered by the inside of the car. You're just looking at outside. And if you drive so much, do you know, if you've driven like for hours and hours, after a point, it's just second nature trust. Do you know what I mean? Like your instincts have calibrated to that high level that the necessity of the moment required. You know? Right now, something cool is gonna happen. We're going to realize that the way the educational system trained the students of humanity was actually to be quiet and learn, do you know? But now we have come to a time where we have access to the outer realm information literally at the tip of we can just type it. But when it comes now, because we want to evolve the linguistic simulation, culture, and language, people have to generate. They have to generate the potential of their mind. You know what it means? That means a human being who goes to the path of violence and being a thug and savage. Like, sure, you could do that, but you've been uh, born like hundreds of years ahead of your time. Let me tell you, if you want to be savage now, because the mind gives you an ability. It gives you an ability to have a direction and to control the speed, literally the velocity of mind. Right now, as I'm even speaking to you, like, what is it? The inner realms, there's scenery. I see a direction in that scenery and I vocalize it. And after some time, it becomes so second nature where, honestly, for me, speaking about something has become like sitting down or standing up. It's like the language doesn't. We are honestly the presence of the whole moment, and life's mystery is right where it's happening. That means I thought about it like people are searching for truth. That means how could we find a truth that is not there where we exactly are? You know? People have been looking for God, not realizing God is the one looking before language painted a human story. We are the cosmos that is somehow looking at itself in the mirror. I mean, like, this is definitely next level, excuse my language, next level shit, evolutionary shit, you know? I feel right now the next 30 years is the most perfect time, the most proper proper time for the philosophers roar, all philosophers on the planet, you know, the poets roar, all poets on the planet, you know. Because really, think of it this way. Think as if we realized in like I mean, honestly, this would be crazy, but imagine we realized like in 200 years a meteor was going to hit Earth and Earth was going to be destroyed. We would all push aside the discrimination and we're like, holy shit, we got to build an interstellar civilization before this meteor hits us. That's why I'm saying sky cities will, in this book I'm writing called Civilization 2.0, sky cities will become the most important technology, trying to make it because it's the evolutionary leap. So if you can see an evolutionary chart to the human being, now Mr. Within is saying, see an evolutionary chart to like infrastructure and civilization. Like in 2016 in Japan, messed up tsunami, do you know, all the infrastructure destroyed. When I was watching it like that, I'm like, literally, nature is hosing ants. Do you know what I mean? So I realized that an intelligent city is a city that can surpass the challenges it has. Right? So an intelligent city, I realized, will be a city the moment that tsunami's happening, it jumps into the air, or even better yet, it goes into sky city. So we can have right now current cities. The next evolution in the charts, the next evolutionary step is jumping cities. After jumping cities, we have sky cities. Then we have spaceship cities, you can say, and then it becomes where by that point we can have interstellar planetary level, like Star Wars beat us there. You know, Star Wars was literally like an Elder Scroll made into an Elder Scroll about the future made into a movie. You know, like a lot of yogis, if they see Star Wars, they'll be like, "Yeah, I could totally see yoga, Yoda. Yeah, it makes sense." You know, Yoda could move a ship out of a swamp with the movement of his hand, but he needed a cane to walk. Do you see how life works, how the force works? And that was the whole thing for me. I mean, honestly, I haven't uh, as accurately as I probably need to. I mean, it's definitely on my to watch list. But I mean, I've seen some Star Wars movies. I've seen the early ones. But it's like it was all about the force being the will of nature, listening to nature's mind, and the dark side was like the ignoring, the ignorance of the natural will. So right now, the mystics are the rare archetype of being the unknown mind of the world alive. That means when, what's his name? Friedrich Nietzsche said, God is dead and man killed him. The next victim, the next victim is the unknown, is mystery. After, if God dies, then mystery's gonna die, you know? And then it's gonna be the void. And then the void can't destroy itself, then it's just gonna be like emptiness staring at emptiness, you know? Of course, I'm being playful here, but pretty much the notion was when Friedrich Nietzsche said that, meant that human beings had taken the steering wheel from nature's will, you know? And now Mr. Within is saying there's going to be an evolutionary return to nature. But this evolutionary return to nature is going to have a completely different psychological framework, because whatever it is right now, like this is the authorization, ultimate of why there's an ultimate authorization of novelty, because any person could sit down in any moment, close their eyes, and imagine how civilization is going to evolve in the next 1,000 years, and any idea, anything they were being shy or holding back, you're going to see in 1,000 years, it's going to be 10, it's going to be so many times more intense and multidimensional than what you think now. You know, I'm just trying to um, push as far as I can. You know, go as far as I can. Then the rest can go as far as they can, and then it will be, in some sense, enough of a push for a self-sustaining advanced civilization. You know, of course, guys, these ideas I'm just kind of sharing them now, but really, I don't know. Da Vinci says, maybe I should end off with this. To develop a complete mind, study the science of art, study the art of science, learn to see, realize how everything connects to everything else. This is a quote ascribed to Da Vinci. I don't know its accuracy, but the quote's like next level. Because what it's implying is that if everything is interconnected, if we choose to see ourselves separate from something, that could be the simulation, you know? I think it's about restoring novelty for the free will. That means, as Morio Shiba says, create each day anew. So you can say novelty can't even be worded. It can't. We can't even give it a name because it's where the names are coming from. Anyways, guys, I hope this episode was helpful. Nature's unnatural glow. I mean, the best thing we can do is be courteous to the natural world. Try to disturb it the least. Sometimes my issue with human beings, relating with animals, it's the disturbance factor. Just like how, imagine like Albert Einstein is writing in a coffee shop and somebody is shouting in the coffee shop and Albert Einstein can't finish his essay or something. You know, it's as if something from outside of one inner realm sphere was disturbing that inner realm sphere. So if we can get rid of the outer realm disturbances, but everybody stays true to who they are and they live, you know, and we see that violence was the inferior games of the savage animal we used to be in caves. Now we require to advance the mind. I'm telling you, because the more older you get in this life, the more you are left with this mind. So the best thing is to have a simultaneous awareness to both of it, you know. So if you can write something new or share something new, or I don't know, maybe create something new, invent something new, whatever, verb something new. That's the whole point of life, to create new verbs. Whoever creates a new verb technically has moved in a new way, technically implies a new dimension. Imagine 8 billion human beings who wrote complete, like imagine every human being was a writer. Imagine we were a writer species. Like ever since we discovered writing, imagine everybody loved writing so much, and maybe we had found like we had evolved to a point where we no longer needed trees. We were like writing on hologram like simulations or something. You know what I mean? Hologram projectors. So imagine if everybody was writing, and imagine right now, in this moment, everybody had written so much that every human being had written about their experiences of they had honestly journaled their outer realms and their inner realms somehow. And we had every human being's inner realm journals and outer realm journals, and this massive information and stories were being compared and processed so we could somehow, as a species, try to see how, if there were other dimensions, how every antenna is picking up a signal. You know? Because here's the thing. It's like we're fighting among ourselves because we think there's nothing else beyond ourselves. The moment we realize there's something else behind ourselves, the species in an instant is going to freak out and unite. You know? This was something where Terence McKenna very incredibly worded it as the tenant in the room. Sorry. Another tenant. There's another tenant in the room. There's another tenant in the room. That means in this room of manifestation of objective phenomena, there's the activity of this mind. Right? Now, the mind, we know it's conditional to the brain, but free will seems to be free. What does freedom mean? Unconditional. So we have a conditional objective system subjectively trying to be unconditional beyond that conditional system. Do you see? So we are realizing it's more of a multidimensional game than we thought. Now, something strange has happened. Certain mystic traditions, they have shunned the multidimensional. The multidimensional has been kind of blasphemous. Do you know? That means it's like back in the day, the Inquisition, if somebody went and brought the concept of aliens, the Inquisitor was probably like, this guy said something weird, get rid of him. Like, that's how arrogant, they were back in the day, Like, even if the guy couldn't understand someone, he'd be like, sometimes, guys, I feel every human being should be a commander of their own inner realm. It's very crucial that you become a commander of your inner realm, but then you serve the outer realm, and the commander of the outer realm is the collective uh, vision of the glow of humanity. There is a science fiction story I wrote called Project Adam and Eve. And there's a sentence where there's a general named General Gabriel, And he gives this message to these four commanders, and he says, if I can remember correctly, all must return to the unavoidable. All men must return to the unavoidable. All must return to the unavoidable void, but humanity's glow shall never perish. It was a sentence like that I wrote for the general in the story that would say it. The glow of our species, whether it's digital continuity, whether it's disembodied energetic dissolution, and that's some sort of continuity. Whatever it is, it's like we're all standing in the same moment of an existence. There's something incredibly significant. It's like now is the hour where the soccer players are in the pitch, on the cosmic pitch, you know? And now it's time to, in some sense, take your shot. And take your shot, I mean by that in the way where if you're a footballer, like someone who plays soccer, right, you're going to notice that there's going to come a moment where you just have to trust your strength, your skill, and the probabilities of your mind. I think a reason I liked to play striker when I was young in soccer was because I could find different angles to shoot the ball in the net. There was more creativity to it rather than just dribbling only, you know? Because if you notice in a football pitch, the defenders just pass the ball to the middle, it's literally each side is like an ocean wave trying to push wave off the ball to the other side, you know? Imagine we have this soccer game, which has never happened. Usually soccer games are 90 minutes, but imagine we have for the first time in history a soccer game between two teams that never ended. That never ended. That means literally the two teams came in one stadium and they had so many soccer player recruits that endlessly people were seeing different players, being recycled. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine? That means the clock timer would become a historic moment where it would never end. Do you know? And each football club was doing this. Do you know? And each child could go and play in that football club and have some sort of historic moment with that football club. You know? Not like every child, but you know what I mean. Like it would give hope to a lot of those unseen soccer players out there in the world. I'm telling you, a lot of our paradise right now is based on design. Literally, we need to design a design shift, a renaissance of design, both in the inner realms and the outer realms. In the outer realms, I'm tired of you know, cubic and rectangular cities. You know what I mean? Like it's too much like a box. We got to start having this law where no architect is allowed to build a building that is like a platonic solid. Like we should just not allow that. We should have a modern art architectural civilization. Imagine. Because remember, we call it a concrete jungle, but it's designed opposite. It's designed with just pure straight lines. People should look into Buckminster Fuller's lectures. This man's, uh, he was an incredible designer, and he found a way to literally a structure. He did something as a kid with marshmallows that was a revolutionary design moment for him, and that echoed on him seeing that structure in buildings. Then now I can see his model being a prototype for to structure civilization. That means it's like, it's strange, but maybe it's not a bad idea that we kind of start creating sectors of civilization, but not like those sectors we say, the economical sector, the educational sector, not like that. I mean, I mean a sort of like a significance to the land, if at least we're going to be on it. My personal aim is to build sky cities and try to live in our skies. And but I think if we choose to live on this planet, then there's a crucial element of actually living. It's like some people just exist, and some people, they're too busy, they're living. It's like the person's like, can't you see I'm living over here? You know? It's like, some silence, please. Guys, I want to read for you something I wrote in 2015. So, guys, this is a book I wrote in 2015. The Source of Language. It's the fifth. It's like a series of essays, and this is the fifth essay, and it's called "The God Within the Animal." And each essay has three quotes in front of it from people in history. It's an unpublished book, of course. Rumi says, "I died as a mineral and I became a plant. I died as a plant and rose to animal. I died as an animal and I was man. Why should I fear? When was I less by dying? Yet once more I shall die as man to soar with angels blessed. But even from angelhood I must pass on. All except God doth perish. When I have sacrificed my angel soul, I shall become what no mind ever conceived." This poet from 700 years ago said this. Sufi poet Rumi. Zheng Chao. Heaven and earth and I are of the same root. The 10,000 things and I are of one substance. Ludwig van Beethoven. Don't only practice your art, but force your way into its secrets, for it and knowledge can raise men to the divine. So these were the three quotes at the beginning of the essay. Because, guys, keep in mind, like, while I'm giving these talks and I'm sharing it online, they're also like a archive, you know, like my digital notepad at the same time. The God within the animal. It can be said, the body is an animal, your mind is God. Or rather, your body is made of earth, and your mind is made of sky. Therefore, all communication can be said to be the communication and movement between the earth and sky, the body and mind, and the animal and God. Eastern mysticism shines upon the view of the world that it is an unspeakable organism beyond the description of its parts. What that means is that from the shadows you cannot discover the true nature of the sun. Let us find the enlightenment that is quicker than light. For if you were an artist that wanted to draw your greatest memory of existence on a canvas ready for visual paint, how the world happens is quite the most beautiful thing. Many think life is about its length, but it's about its depth. The depth of life experience is a suggestion. The depth of life experience is a suggestion that when you wonder what is the best way to live life, it will be said you can get lost in a game of duality, which is the unhidden world that language walks on. Or you can liberate yourself from how if you were to think beyond thought, there would be no thinker. Suddenly, the words of language have finally found themselves transparent to the world of direct experience. How you acknowledge this moment is important, because every idea that you have on your moment will create an unconscious cycle of karma. In other words, language and art for the conscious self-aware being can no longer be separate. How the moment must be acknowledged is that when you ask, who is asking? Who is the seer of thought? How is there also here? The source of language is always beyond what the language is. As Mr. Within has said, the letters of the alphabet are not enough. This universe is not a tangible fixed concept or idea, and it will never be. For as long as we have imagination, science cannot have the loudest voice. A self-reflective divine direct experience will suddenly, through the gates of silence and stillness, very intensely tear up egotistical conclusions about reality, in a presence in which if you looked in your morning mirror, you would not see yourself as separate from the universe, but as the whole universe, as though as one moment of absolute being. You're not just looking in the mirror, the whole universe is. Are the letters in the alphabet enough? Enlightenment is stepping out of time through a self-reflection beyond time. No two people would be one person, for there would just be one person. When you flow with your true nature, that is the soul moment. You don't connect too many ideologies to self, for self is your pure moment, always as it was, always as it is. There is no supreme idea of a hierarchical intelligence with anger issues. The God of the heart is the best God, for it beats as the center of the breathable universe. Behind the eyes of ideas, there is no third eye of an enlightened master. There is the beauty of a moment that is its own mirror. Polished by nature, we are all divinity's work. If you look closely at these letters, you will see they are artwork. For abstraction is only pushed back by society's reality. For language was the smudge, and direct experience is the glory wiping the mirror of new vision. The mind, conceptually, is void but rich with subjective design. Has a thought taken off its mask? Has your solar presence realized it was never an individual soul and the teacup had to be empty before it's full? Can Zen masters breakdance? Are words fighting back? The mystery of conception always points to an axis unconsciously thrown into the endless abyss of the unknown. Is your personality an unnecessary scene for your true presence? What has the Buddha said that we have not listened to? Whose story is history? Transcendence means direct experience is all that is happening. Beyond planes of action, the wise man listens to the self beyond words, in which sincerity is made too humble to hurt a dying world. How do the eternal behave to temporal rudeness? Don't stay thirsty, my friends. Just walk omnisciently as your true nature. Imagination and technology are the horses if logic, rationality, and divine intuitive intelligence are the chariot. Now wonder, dear reader, who is sitting in this grand picture that is the chariot of the moment? What is the texture of your experience, or have you not playfully discovered the oneness of love yet? For in selfless devotional service, like the tree outside to our moment, we shall live fruitfully without prior karmic disturbances boomeranged from insincere moments of unnecessary actions of thoughts. A smart man looks in front of him. A wise man is the whole moment that sees. Beyond ordinary perception, just like the stars promised, we are extraordinary. Creativity means on the surface of the rock, there are flows of communicating intelligence, as if our consciousness was a drop of intelligence, it is rather present through a river of multidimensional intelligence. So beyond the conception of ideology that with a simple awareness to what is within us, we have not only become the source of language, but the source of all light. There are two ways to look at our world in regards to a multidimensional context. Either we are within another world, or another world is within us. It seems the cosmic fractal nature of the body never stopped growing. Wisdom originates from self-reflection. Trust the moment and let the divine smile. You are the whole of life, not a part of it. You're not on a spinning rock in the middle of nowhere. You are, in caps, the R is in caps, you are your, in caps, whole moment. You are your whole moment. Beyond these words, you are your own enlightenment. We must conduct our consciousness with full awareness of our whole moment, regardless of how multidimensional or not it would be. The pilots of consciousness are here to navigate as the whole moment of existence. Cough, cough. That includes enlightenment too. How much do you trust the intelligence that you are beyond language? How does Pegasus fly and ride the floating fields of paradise at the same time? Perhaps if you stop thinking you're a thought that gets wounded by disassociation, realize you're not a thought, and you never were. You're a moment of existential experience, untouchable by all that is, for it is defined, based, and by all of it. My beloved friend, you're your own torchbearer. God is already its own exploration. If you only think you are a creator, in brackets I've written self here, you will build blindly. Be your moment. There is nothing simpler than that. Are you reading this book or self-reflectively observing how the nature of your own mind emanates into reality? It's simple. Be sincere. And the seer of all sin is beyond sin. You are the path. There is nothing else. And that's how the chapter ends, guys. The entry ends. You are the path. There's nothing else. There's another chapter after it. I feel I'm going to read this one too. It's not long, it's short, so I'll read it. The chapter's called Who Are You Living For? Question mark. Mahatma Gandhi, live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. Swami Vivekananda, they alone live who live for others. That's the honor of our species. Chung Tzu says, let your mind wander in the pure and simple. Be one with the infinite. Let all things take their course. So the essay begins, who are you living for? Again, I wrote this 2015 in a book called The Source of Language. Who are you living for? That's the first question of the first sentence of the essay. The first sentence of the essay is like asking you a question. Who are you living for, reader? So, essay 6, who are you living for? Who are you living for? Don't take ideas so seriously. Let us be our natural simplicity. An older monk will have more compassion when the death of eyes inspires self-realization. Don't get distracted by cycling ideology. Remember yourself beyond memory. For a Buddhist, perhaps you are creating your heaven before you die. Who omnisciently stands behind your presence? That is the essence of this roaring moment. Bliss is beyond cruelty, and only divine collective love has the keys to the cosmic gate. But this does not mean surrendering a set of ideology for another. It means self-realizing the world is void, for you're looking at it. And when we wonder about how we acknowledge ourselves in the moment, what is the moment is already being what it is. This doesn't mean thought is a narrow canal of a dead end, but a tool, which must be used by sincere and intuitive hands. Love yourself like the universe. Wow, that's like a sentence. Love yourself like the universe. For beyond thoughts and language, all life is one. For a transcendental writer, are his thoughts too being written? Or is destiny more elegant than that? Beyond the walls of the senses, are we aware of the battle of conceptual chaos with an ordered void? There is no prophecy or spoon to bend. Ask yourself, who am I? Until you realize you are your answer. Sincerity is your advancement. A poet of the stars writes beyond space. The essence of reality is an undying moment. There is no need for a glossary of disputes or a market of ideas. Language is a gate that only nothing can transcend. Are these words enough? The empty page is your answer. Find the pen that belongs to your whole universal moment. Many new renaissances shall be written into manifestation and intuitively and synchronistically handled by the natural intuition of our planet and the super soul of existence. We can no longer be ignorant of the ground. We must open our parachutes of self-realization. No time to hold rulers for too long. Is enlightenment correct? Question mark. Ask the sky that you are being. Yeah, who knew we're being the sky right now, you know? Technically the edge of awareness, I mean, the whole moment. So anyways, guys, this was a long one. Thanks for listening. I don't know why I keep doing these Discord things, but I'm gonna put the link there in case anybody wants to check it out. And honestly, guys, like for me, like I'll tell you this one last thing before I end off. Like, um, I have a talk that I gave, which is talk 438, and it's me in when I was in Iran in 2016, visiting there in the summer, just visiting my relatives and family, and there was a moment there where there was this gathering of these people who they titled themselves as masters, like Ostad, like and it was like a gathering of like mystical dialogue, you know, of like wondering about the nature of reality, like that's something cool about Iranian culture, that it's like a bunch of grown men with suits sit in a room and they discuss very politely and elegantly the nature of the universe, you know. Now the thing was though, when I went here, none of the people, all those people with they were calling themselves masters, none of them, like this dude literally came and showed off his martial arts skills. I was like, dude, like there's a crowd of people here sitting waiting to listen to something you're like doing martial arts in front. But then at the end of it, at the end suddenly they asked me to speak, and the guy gives me the microphone. It was the first time I had spoken to a crowd in a microphone, and with a microphone, and I took the microphone and the guy said you have 10 minutes. I finished the thing in 8, but I remember at the end of it I said something that the whole point of the outer guru was to show you the inner guru, or you would be following someone your whole life who you don't know who they are. You know what I mean? That means the whole point of it was for the person to find the inner guru. Do you know? That means the outer guru's purpose was to be a mirror. That's it. And once the inner guru is there, what that means is the person has realized prior to any teacher or teaching their whole moment. Your moment of being. I remember I ended off the whole thing saying, what was the sentence? Um, your moment of existence is your moment of being is your only master, your only guru, and because it has been there from the beginning. It has been with you from the beginning, and I just ended it off, and I just got up, and it was like this intense moment, you know. And it was this notion, because you don't understand, it's like on some level it's like a market of ideas. I remember, like I just read it right now, you know. There is a market of ideas, you know. It's all about how much the person is being uh gullible, right? Do you know what I mean? Like right now, because I'm thinking we're behind on building an advanced civilization, there is literally no time for it. Like what I'm thinking about really is that I remember I gave a talk, 4 billion-year-old Ferrari, and we're driving it at 10 miles per hour, and we think we are making progress as a species. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I'm gonna end the talk here. Um, yeah, blessings.